All right, buckle up, because we are about to wade into some seriously cool stuff. All things Godzilla.
You've clearly got a monster-sized appetite for the king of the monsters.
Absolutely.
And with the 70th anniversary this year,
Yeah,
there's a ton to unpack.
it's going to be big.
We've got news articles, event listings, even glimpses into upcoming video games and collectibles.
Wow.
So let's dive right in.
What's fascinating is how Godzilla remains a global phenomenon even after 70 years.
For sure.
It's not just about monster battles anymore. It's about the stories, the artistry,
Right.
the sheer variety of ways fans connect with this universe.
And speaking of connecting with the Godzilla universe, you've sent us info on some seriously cool events, like Godzilla taking over both coasts on November 3rd.
Wow, both coasts.
I'm talking about simultaneous events in Tokyo and Los Angeles.
That's incredible.
It's going to be big.
It's a testament to Godzilla's international appeal.
For sure.
In Tokyo, they're holding the 10th annual Godzilla Festival at the Hibiya Godzilla Square, even live streaming it this year.
Oh, wow.
For fans around the world, actor Shinsuke Kasai, who's no stranger to the Godzilla universe himself, will be emceeing the event.
I've seen clips from past festivals. The energy is electric.
Oh, yeah.
But get this, on the very same day, the Academy Museum in LA is hosting its own Godzilla event.
Wow.
Talk about a double feature.
This event is particularly interesting because it offers something you don't see every day. A chance to meet Godzilla suit fabricator Christopher Bioa
Okay.
and see his Fusion Godzilla suit up close.
Okay. I have to admit, when I first saw a Fusion Godzilla suit, my mind went to some kind of Mecha Godzilla hybrid.
Sure.
What makes this particular suit so special?
It's all about celebrating Godzilla's evolution.
Right.
Bioa's creation blends design elements from different Godzilla suits across the decades.
Wow.
A visual timeline of the King's various looks over the years.
Cool.
It's a really cool way to appreciate the artistry and craftsmanship that goes into these iconic monster suits.
It makes you appreciate how much detail goes into each iteration and how the design reflects the changing times and cinematic techniques.
Absolutely.
But Godzilla isn't just about looking good. It's about the stories.
The stories are great.
And we've got some exciting new narratives to dive into.
Absolutely. One that caught my eye is Behemoth, a new comic series from Dark Horse Comics,
Okay.
launching in January. Now, this isn't your typical monster-on-monster brawl.
Okay.
Behemoth takes us inside a kaiju, letting us experience the world from that terrifying, awe-inspiring perspective.
Okay, that's a fresh take. Rating that definitely sparked my curiosity. It reminds me a bit of that feeling you get watching documentaries about whales or elephants,
Right.
that sense of immense scale and power. But to experience that from inside a kaiju,
Yeah,
intense.
and to add to the excitement, the writing team behind Behemoth is top-notch.
Okay.
We're talking Grant Spitor, who's currently working on a Monsterverse film, and Ryan Engel, the screenwriter behind Rampage.
Wow.
These guys know a thing or two about bringing colossal creatures to life.
That definitely explains why this comic feels different. It's not just about the spectacle, it's about exploring the impact these creatures have on our world, and in this case, experiencing it from their point of view.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What would it be like to experience the world through the senses of a creature that massive?
It really does.
How would we perceive, sound, light, even our own emotions? It's a fascinating concept.
It reminds me a bit of Fantastic Voyage, but instead of shrinking down to explore the human body, we're going large scale, venturing into the unknown depths of a kaiju. Speaking of venturing, it seems like Godzilla fans have a lot of exciting territory to explore these days.
Absolutely, and we're just scratching the surface.
Yeah.
From the sound of things, you've unearthed some real gems for us to uncover.
Let's do it. You know, one of the things that always blows me away about the Godzilla fandom is how it goes way beyond just watching the movies.
Oh yeah, for sure.
We're talking about a whole ecosystem of creativity, fan art, music,
Absolutely.
and of course collectibles that range from the adorable to the, wait, they made a statue that big.
It's a testament to how deeply Godzilla has permeated pop culture.
Right.
And the collectibles market is fascinating because it reflects those different levels of fandom.
Speaking of different levels, you've sent us info on some seriously impressive collectibles, including this Shin Japan Heroes Universe statue set.
Okay.
I took one look at the photos and thought, okay, that's a statement piece if I've ever seen one.
It's more than just a statement piece. It's a celebration of Japanese pop culture icons.
Right.
You've got Godzilla, of course,
Of course.
but also Evangelion Unit 01 Ultraman and Masked Rider,
Wow.
all standing together in a display of pure kaiju awesomeness.
And the craftsmanship.
Yeah.
It's not just a mass-produced thing.
Yeah.
They've brought in 4 top-tier sculptors, each one a master of their craft, to
Right.
create what they're calling a sculptor's universe.
Wow.
That level of detail and artistry, it's museum-worthy.
You've hit on a key point. This isn't just about owning a cool figure. It's about owning a piece of art that reflects a shared love for these characters and the stories they represent. And it's fandom as fine art.
And for those of us who might not have the budget for a life-size Godzilla statue, myself included, sadly, there are still plenty of ways to express that fandom. I mean, we've even got Lego getting in on the action.
Yes, the Lego Ideas submission.
Right.
That's a fantastic example of how the fans themselves contribute to this ever-evolving world of Godzilla.
It makes you wonder, what would a Lego Godzilla movie even look like? Would it be stop-motion animation CGI?
Oh, that's a good question.
Either way, I'd watch it.
Speaking of watching,
Yeah.
we can't forget the fans who want to interact with the Godzilla universe in a more hands-on way.
Right.
And there are some exciting options out there, particularly in the gaming world.
Oh, yeah. You know, I love my video games.
Of course, of course.
And when it comes to Godzilla games, we're not just talking about button-mashing brawlers anymore.
No.
There's depth strategy and some seriously immersive storytelling.
Exactly. Take Kong. Survivor Instinct, for instance. This isn't just a tie-in to the Monsterverse. It's a chance to experience Kong's story in a whole new way.
Oh.
We're talking 2.5D action-adventure platforming combat.
Okay.
Imagine a Metroidvania set in the Monsterverse, where you can use Monarch tech to actually influence Titan behavior.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. I love games that give you those aha moments where you figure out how to use the environment and even your enemy's strengths against them. It adds a whole new layer of strategy to the action.
And for those who like their battles on the go, there's
Yeah.
always Godzilla Battle Line.
Right.
They recently added a new character that has fans buzzing the Gotengo, that iconic flying battleship from Godzilla Final Wars.
Okay, the Gotengo. That's just cool on so many levels.
I know.
It's like bringing a flying aircraft carrier to a monster fight.
And the developers haven't just thrown it in as a quick cameo.
Okay.
They've gone all out, incorporating voice lines from the ship's captain, Douglas Gordon, taken straight from the movie.
That's attention to detail. It's those little touches that show the developers really respect the source material and the fans who love it.
For sure.
But I have to ask, what kind of in-game event requires a flying battleship? What could possibly pose a threat that big?
Now, that would be telling. You'll have to jump into Godzilla Battle Line and experience those special events for yourself.
You know me, I love a good challenge. Speaking of challenges, let's talk about the challenge of choosing what to watch when you're in the mood for some Godzilla action. There are so many movies to choose from.
It's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
And with Halloween right around the corner, there's no better time to revisit some of Godzilla's spookier adversaries.
Oh, I see where you're going with this. You're talking about Hedorah, right?
Yeah.
The smog monster himself. That's a movie that definitely sticks with you, even if you don't love the smell of pollution.
Hedorah's a classic for sure. But there's another Godzilla film that I think deserves a spot on any Halloween movie marathon. Godzilla vs. Droya.
Ah, Droya. Now there's a monster that gives me chills. It's like the embodiment of pure destruction, a walking, talking apocalypse. What is it about Droya that makes it so terrifying?
The story is interesting because it represents the consequences of our own actions.
Right.
It's a monster born from the oxygen destroyer, the weapon that killed the original Godzilla in 1954. It's like a walking reminder that even our attempts to destroy can have unintended monstrous consequences.
It's like that saying, nature finds a way. Except in this case, it's not just nature. It's the fallout from our own destructive tendencies coming back to haunt us. It adds a whole other layer of depth to those classic monster battles.
And speaking of depth, you sent us some material that delves into a fascinating aspect of the Godzilla universe that I have to admit I hadn't considered before the culinary arts.
Okay, you're gonna have to explain this one to me. When I think Godzilla, I think city-smashing mayhem, not exactly a 5-star dining experience.
Well, get ready to expand your palate because Toho, the studio behind Godzilla, is releasing an official Godzilla cookbook.
Wait, seriously, a Godzilla cookbook? I'm already trying to picture what a Godzilla-themed recipe would even look like. Is it just a giant plate of sushi arranged in the shape of Godzilla?
Think more along the lines of dishes inspired by the monsters themselves or the iconic locations from the films, I imagine there'll be some creatively named cocktails in there too.
Okay, now that you mention it, a Godzilla-themed cocktail party does sound kind of amazing. But for those who prefer to digest their Godzilla knowledge in a more traditional format, you've also sent us info on something very intriguing, an encyclopedia dedicated to all things Godzilla.
This isn't just a quick Wikipedia entry. This is a deep dive into the history, the films, the characters, the cultural impact. It's everything a Godzilla fan could ask for.
I can already see myself getting lost in that for hours, tracing the evolution of Godzilla's design over the decades, reading up on all the different kaiju he's battled. It's like a love letter to the king of the monsters in encyclopedia form.
It really highlights how Godzilla has transcended the boundaries of film and become a cultural touchstone, inspiring countless artists, writers, and even chefs, apparently.
And speaking of inspiration, we can't forget about the fashion. Godzilla is everywhere these days, even on our clothes. I've got to say, rocking a Godzilla t-shirt is a great conversation starter.
It's a way to wear your fandom on your sleeve, literally. And there's such a range of styles, too, from subtle nods to bold, eye-catching designs.
Exactly. You can go for a vintage Godzilla poster design or something more modern and minimalist. Personally, I'm a fan of that new Godzilla King hoodie with the glow-in-the-dark details.
Yeah.
Subtle, but still makes a statement.
It's like you're saying, I appreciate the finer points of giant monster cinema, but I'm also stylish.
Exactly. But for me, the ultimate way to celebrate Godzilla is to experience the energy of a live event. And you mentioned earlier that the Godzilla Festival in Tokyo is being live streamed this year. That's something I'm really looking forward to checking out.
It's a testament to the global reach of Godzilla's fandom. Even if we can't all make it to Tokyo, we can still share in that excitement and celebrate 70 years of this iconic monster.
And with all this new content coming out, the films, the comics, the games, the collectibles, even the cookbook, it's clear that Godzilla's reign is far from over.
Indeed. And as new generations discover the thrill of giant monsters and epic battles, it will be fascinating to see how Godzilla continues to evolve and capture our imaginations. After all, there's something eternally captivating about a creature that can level a city with a swipe of its tail, yet still inspire a sense of awe and wonder.
Well said. So there you have it, folks, a deep dive into the world of Godzilla, a universe that's as vast and ever-evolving as the king of the monsters himself. Until next time, keep an eye out for those towering shadows, and remember, sometimes the most monstrous things can also be the most magnificent.